What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tones Over Thinks It, the show where I think too much to make up for the people who don't think at all. And welcome to another edition of TLDR. You guys remember the days where First Amendment auditors said it was all about holding the police and the government accountable, where the only targets of their videos were government facilities, public employees, or officials? And while indeed redressing your government by means of harassing them and then uploading it to YouTube for ad revenue is stupid, at the very least, the target of their videos were people who were required to respect and uphold their First Amendment rights. But lately we've noticed a surge where First Amendment auditors are now targeting private citizens, whether it be out in public, in their own private businesses, and in some cases even at their own homes. This has resulted in more extreme confrontations in which frauditors have been prepared to exercise violence against the other individual. And let's think about that for a second. How many frauditor videos have we seen where the frauditor in question has pepper sprayed a police officer or struck a government employee? The answer, of course, is none. None of them have ever done that. And then suddenly, as they start targeting private citizens on the streets, we see it happening more and more often. Now, First Amendment auditors like to claim that they've taken such measures in self-defense, though personally, if you are required to use weapons or excessive force against an individual who's unarmed, twice your age, or otherwise not really capable of injuring you, I consider that cowardly. But regardless of this, frauditors have seemed to develop more of a need to harass private citizens in their videos, as it does lead to more interesting conflicts for their YouTube channels, and if these private citizens decide to request aid from law enforcement, they're expecting law enforcement to show up and tell them, well, they can't do anything about the frauditor. Strangely enough, it seems almost like frauditors have gone from disliking and distrusting the government because of their whole anti-constitutional rights to creating situations where they have to call upon the government to come protect them. And while I do find it hilariously ironic that the group famous for labeling people who trust law enforcement and seek law enforcement's aid as bootlickers are suddenly the ones more in demand for their services and goes crying to them for help very quickly, the main issue I have with frauditors going after private citizens is, what does this have to do with the First Amendment? Because as all of us know, the First Amendment protects you from the government. The government cannot suppress your free speech. They can't suppress your access to free press. They can't dictate what religion you practice. None of that. However, a private citizen, business, or organization is not beholden to that. A private citizen cannot violate your constitutional rights. So when frauditors decide to film private individuals out in public, and those people say they don't want to be filmed, technically them asking not to be filmed or demanding not to be filmed does not violate anyone's First Amendment right. Those people don't owe the frauditor anything. They don't have to respect the frauditor's rights any more than the frauditor technically doesn't have to respect their request. Now, sure, it's not required by law that you show empathy or common courtesy to your fellow man, but simply making the choice not to do so doesn't put you above anybody. It doesn't make you more free or more patriotic. In reality, it just makes you, in the eyes of society, a colossal asshole. So again, frauditors targeting private citizens and private businesses, anyone who's effectively not associated with the government, serves no purpose for the First Amendment. There is no First Amendment violation when these people object. The very thing that frauditors use as justification for their content goes out the freaking window. It's no longer about accountability. It's no longer about protecting rights. It's all about provoking a conflict with another person. And while some of these people like to say, oh, well, I'm not trying to do that, I actually would like people to be more respectful of one another. Okay, if that's the case, then the moment the other party takes exception to your actions or becomes hostile, why aren't you the party who decides to withdraw? Why aren't you the one who, just for the sake of diffusing the situation, simply apologizes, chooses to be the better man, ceases your actions, and moves on? Because your objective is not that people are courteous and respectful to each other, is that they're courteous and respectful to only you. Your actions, your going out there into the world of film, is purely self-serving. It offers nothing to the benefit of society. It doesn't educate people on their own rights. If anything, you seem to be educating them that they have less rights than you. So at the risk of sounding like a broken record, the plight of public photography and the First Amendment are not furthered by any of this. There is no constitutional argument. The very concept of a First Amendment audit of a private individual doesn't work. So once you have removed the constitutional arguments and the very subject of rights or free speech out of the equation, what are we left with? We're left with people who their sole purpose in this content is to go out and cause disruption in the lives of others. Now, personally, I think this is bad on two fronts. The first being the one I've obviously explained, that yeah, you shouldn't be doing this to other people. I mean, if you're a normal human being with any sense of empathy or compassion, you wouldn't be doing this. Okay, the law shouldn't have to be written down to tell you not to be a dick. The other, however, is that frauditors don't realize what they're getting into. If you're going to go and harass law enforcement or public employees, you may be able to research and find written down the rules that they have to adhere to in terms of their conduct or limitations as to how they may respond to your behavior. The problem here is a private individual, because they're not the government and because they're not required to respect your First Amendment right, there are other things that aren't required of them. They don't have rules, they don't have policies, they don't have procedures, they don't have anything governing use of force, nothing that they have been trained and certified on that determines their eligibility to be in the position they are when you encounter them, and preemptively influences how they're going to react. And while there indeed are laws, those are really applicable only as consequences for their actions after the fact. You all have watched my channel and others long enough to know that sometimes a law doesn't really discourage someone from doing something stupid. So by targeting private individuals, frauditors are running the risk of encountering someone who will simply take the matter into their own hands. This whole pattern of going out, causing trouble, police showing up and not helping, the more frauditors are showing this apparent loophole that someone can go out and be a bully or commit a crime and not face any consequences, society is watching. And it's not just with frauditors. I mean, pranksters, shoplifters, squatters, scam artists, sovereign citizens, people who have been wronged by them are going to start to think that the law is either powerless or otherwise inadequate to deal with them, and so they're going to deal with it themselves. And what are frauditors going to do? They'll probably up the ante even more. Remember, these are people who think that the mere act of touching their camera warrants an act of self-defense by the discharge of non-lethal weapons and blunt force trauma. And we're already past the point where people are getting seriously hurt. So how much further does this have to go? How long before someone's life is irreparably changed or worse, ended? And for the frauditors to realize that they better just stick with targets that at least they know are trained and aware that they have to exercise some level of restraint. Because if you go off tap dancing into a minefield, sooner or later, you're going to step on one and it's going to blow up in your face, and you're not going to be around afterwards to whine about it. But then again, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like what you see here and you want to see even more in the future, please consider subscribing to my channel. Also, feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section. I always love to read them. Till next time.